I am really, really angry. Well, I was. I've had some time to calm down. While I was preparing for this episode, I discovered some things about my network that resulted in me screaming at the game in frustration. It's probably just as well that I wasn't recording at the time, because I would have blown out some speakers and eardrums. Let me give my usual introduction, and then I'll talk about why I got so angry. So hello, and welcome to episode 9 in my gameplay series of Worldwide Rush. I like to always say up front that the developer of Worldwide Rush gave me a copy of the game so I can create these videos. And also, I play Worldwide Rush on the Steam Deck, so there will be some minor differences in how the game looks and plays if you are playing on a PC. Returning to my issue, if you are guessing that this has something to do with hub managers, you are, of course, correct. Let me explain what I want hub managers to do. After I create some routes between a group of cities, the traffic demand between the cities will generally grow. The demand will eventually exceed the capabilities of the routes I have created. I would generally prefer to not have to worry about whether I have enough capacity on all of my existing routes, so I can focus on creating new routes. What I want hub managers to do is to manage the capacity on my existing routes. If a hub needs more vehicles, it should add them to the route. If a route has too many vehicles, it should remove some from the route. The hub manager can also upgrade and downgrade individual vehicles if that's a better way to manage the traffic. The problem I've been having for the past several episodes is that the hub managers do not always maintain sufficient capacity on the routes. I've talked about how I think this is often a bug. It appears that if a manager wants to upgrade a vehicle, and the vehicle upgrade is sold out, it may just sell the vehicle instead. There are also cases where I want to keep a route operational for various reasons, even if it is losing money, and I can't prevent the hub manager from selling that vehicle. For the past several episodes, I've been trying to work around this. As I prepare for each episode, I look for any routes that are missing, and I've been removing hub managers when it seems like there are persistent problems. The other side of this is that I want to be able to tell hub managers to not use certain routes. Sometimes I make mistakes when creating routes. Other times I let a route run for a while and then change my mind and decide I want to use a different route instead. I had previously discovered that if you remove all the vehicles from a route, this will not stop a hub manager from just adding more vehicles to the route, and I thought I understood why. If you remove all the vehicles from a route, the route still exists. It is hidden from most views, but you can still find it by looking at the list of all routes and changing the filter to show routes with 0 vehicles. It makes sense to me that if a route is on the route list, a hub manager can add vehicles to that route, even if it currently has 0 vehicles. I often do not want hub managers to be able to do this, so I tried to figure out how to prevent this from happening. It turns out that if you edit the destinations of a route by adding or removing cities, the old version of the route does not appear anywhere that I can find in the game. I had believed that if I edited the routes that I did not want the hub managers to use, the old routes would no longer exist, and the hub managers would not be able to add vehicles to the old routes. Unfortunately, this is not correct. Back in episode 7.5, I deliberately edited several routes because I no longer wanted to use them. But as I was preparing for this episode, I discovered that hub managers had restored several routes which I had destroyed. Hub managers have 2 possible goals, labeled Maintain Routes and Expand City. If the hub manager is set to the Expand City goal, of course it will create whatever new routes are necessary. If the hub manager has the Maintain Routes goal, I had expected that the hub manager would operate all of the routes that I want it to have, and not create any routes that I do not want it to have. I want the routes in this game to be based on my choices. I like to think that I generally make pretty good choices about my routes. But even if I make bad choices, or do things that are outright mistakes, I want to be able to make those mistakes. The point of many of the changes I made in episode 7.5 was that I was deliberately changing my mind and making different choices than I had made previously. When hub managers delete routes that I have created, it feels like sabotage. But when I was preparing for this episode, I didn't just find deleted routes. I also found that the hub managers had created routes I deliberately destroyed. It felt like the hub managers were undoing or undermining the changes I made in episode 7.5. It felt like the hub managers were refusing to let me make my own choices, whether good or bad. As I found more of these changes, I felt rising fury, and eventually I started screaming at the game. The next step is pretty clear. I am removing all of the hub managers. I'm adding all of the missing routes, and I'm removing all of the routes I do not want. This means that going forward, it will be entirely up to me to make sure I have enough vehicles on all of my routes. That's a problem for future me. As you can see, I've already started making some of these changes. The changes aren't particularly interesting, so I'm going to accelerate the video playback as I make these changes. I'm restoring some missing routes from Omaha. I used to have this route, but now I do not, so I'm putting it back. This route from Omaha to Eau Claire, I had a vehicle on. I've added a second vehicle to that route more than once before and it keeps getting removed. So we'll make that permanent. This route, currently ending in Davenport, is a route that I had changed in episode 7.5 to continue to Chicago. I don't want that route to end in Davenport. Talking through the reason why, I realized that if I have a route which is connecting to several different cities and is starting from a hub, I almost always want the route to end at a different hub. Because if you stop in between, passengers who are trying to get from one hub to the other hub end up having to stop at that intermediate city, and that causes problems. We have the same issue here with Monterey to Houston. I formerly had a route from Monterey to Laredo and then a separate route from Laredo to Houston, so I was worried that passengers would accumulate in Laredo if they need to transfer there to get between the two hubs. And so I want the route to go directly from Monterey to Houston. I've decided that I want passengers generally to travel from their start city to a hub, then travel between hubs, and eventually travel from a hub to their destination. Passengers transferring at hubs are generally manageable, but I want to limit passengers from transferring between different routes in cities which are not hubs. The changes that I'm making here are really correcting a mistake. I created a train route from Memphis to Chicago and I forgot to stop in St. Louis. So I'm adding that stop in. I also created a separate route which did stop in St. Louis rather than correcting the route in the first place. But I want the route to actually start in Jackson at this point rather than starting in Memphis. So I'm changing both of those routes to start in Jackson. This isn't a change which is related to the hub managers, but I might as well do it now. This route is cyclic, which means the vehicle is traveling in a circle. What I want to do is add another vehicle and then change the direction of that route so it goes in the opposite direction. So I'm going both ways around the circle. And another change I made a couple of times is it's turned out that I've ended up with two different routes that are actually going to the same destinations but in opposite orders, like this route from Rolla to Fayetteville through Springfield. So I've reversed the order of one of them, so all of the vehicles on that route are going in the same direction. Alright, now that I've taken care of the hub managers, I can move on to the next thing that I wanted to do, which is actually something I was really excited about for this episode. Culpeper is a hub. It's a hub controlled by a different company. However, at this point, I have a higher degree of trust in Culpeper than that other company does. And that means that I can buy out that hub. So there we go. I now own the hub in Culpeper. I own all the vehicles that were operating out of that hub. I control all of the routes that were operating out of that hub. So I'm competing with these other companies. One way to compete with these other companies is to just take them over. Sometimes you can take over the entire company. Other times, like this, you can take over just one of the hubs. This has been something that I've been looking forward to do. I haven't had the opportunity to do it before. Now I have. Now that I have control of Culpeper, I want to make sure that all of the routes from Culpeper actually make sense. So the first change I'm making is I had this plane from Culpeper to Goldsboro. I don't want a plane flying to a city which is not a hub, so I'm changing its destination to Myrtle Beach. The next thing that I want to look at is routes from Culpeper that are stopping in multiple cities, because sometimes the routes are good, sometimes they're not. This one is okay, going from Culpeper to Richmond and New Bern. However, this route from Culpeper to Greenville makes no sense whatsoever. It's actually been causing problems for me because passengers think there are easy connections between Greenville, Augusta, Columbia, and they don't really exist because this LBART just can't actually deliver all of the passengers between these locations. So I've been thinking of this route as something of a poison pill for my own network. It's actually making it harder for me to control my own passengers between my own cities because there's this route which is going between cities that I don't want it going to. And passengers are trying to take that route rather than taking the routes that I want them to take. So the advantage of taking over Culpeper is I can remove that route. I've edited the route so it just stops in Washington and Chambersburg, which makes sense. I should point out that if I put a hub manager in Culpeper, there's no guarantee that the hub manager wouldn't try to recreate that route. So now I'm looking at other passengers from Culpeper. Where do they want to be going? How can I help with this? Because part of the reason why I was able to take over the hub was because the other company wasn't doing a good job of managing all the passengers from Culpeper. So the first thing that I was looking at was that there are lots of passengers in Culpeper who want to get to New Bern, but it turns out they're not actually coming from Culpeper, they're really coming from Washington. So I'm going to add a route from Washington through Culpeper to New Bern to help with that. Just remembered, since I removed the plane going from Culpeper to Goldsboro, I probably need some kind of connection between those two cities. And so I'm going to add a bus between the two cities. My view is that planes can distort bus routes. Passengers will go to Goldsboro thinking they can fly to Culpeper, and I don't want them to do that. I want them to go to Myrtle Beach so they can fly to Culpeper. That's okay, but I don't want them to try to fly from Goldsboro. And if I just have the bus between the two cities, that's mostly just going to be carrying traffic directly from Goldsboro to Culpeper. So the next one on the list was Virginia Beach. Same problem. Passengers are really starting in Washington and going to Virginia Beach, so I need to add a route directly from Washington to Virginia Beach. I can't create that route, but I can create the route that stops in Culpeper. All right, next on the list, Chambersburg. Okay, this one is legit. I have many passengers who want to get directly from Culpeper to Chambersburg, and there is a route which is doing that already. I'm just going to expand that route. Next up is Richmond. Again, most of the passengers are direct between Culpeper and Richmond. The route between Culpeper and Richmond already exists. I'm going to just expand it. next is Culpeper and New York. Turns out most of these passengers are transferring from Washington, but I'm going to take advantage of this as a good excuse to extend my train network. I'm going to build out a train from Culpeper, stopping at all the cities along the way, up to New York. We'll start pretty small. I'm purposely getting a Trackstar because there are bigger Trackstar trains which I haven't unlocked yet, so I want to make sure I'm running a bunch of Trackstars to unlock all of the bigger trains. And now I'm checking, are there other routes that need more work? As I was looking at these cities, I realized I have a problem with Richmond. Richmond has many passengers who want to get to Virginia Beach. They currently don't really have a good way to get there. There are also many other cities that Richmond has passengers for, and they don't really have good routes to get there. You can see, to get from Richmond to Virginia Beach, passengers currently have to go down to Greenville and then come back up. So I want all of these cities to sort of belong to me at this point. So I'm going to add a route directly from Culpeper through Richmond to Virginia Beach. We'll stop off on Hampton because it's on the way. We will make this a bus. I've looked a couple of times at trying to create train routes that are closer to the coast. They don't really exist. I could manually build out the rail to do that, but the sort of built-in rail routes in the game don't do that very well, and so I'm not using rail to connect to those cities because I just can't connect to them very efficiently. Alright, so just checking. Looking over my other routes, trying to decide is there anything else that I need to be doing. I have this train which is running from Myrtle Beach to Culpeper, and it's stopping in Fayetteville and Roanoke Rapids. I have passengers who want to go to both of those cities, so I'm just going to expand this train. We'll step it up from a General T2 to a General T3. Alright, I probably haven't worked out all the traffic problems from Culpeper, but now that I'm looking at Myrtle Beach, I find out a traffic problem from Myrtle Beach, which is Bermuda, Hamilton in Bermuda. I have a connection to Myrtle Beach. I have the ship traveling between Hamilton and Myrtle Beach, which is carrying lots of passengers. But not enough, so I'm going to expand the route. There we go. And the reason why it's not enough is because the distance between the two cities is so great that it takes a really long time to get between them. And so I have this route from Hamilton to Myrtle Beach already. In a change from my usual policy, I'm going to deliberately add ships going in the opposite direction. I'm going to create a new route from Myrtle Beach to Hamilton. And I'm going to add immediately 2 ships on that route. And the reason why is currently in Myrtle Beach, there are 54 passengers who want to get to Hamilton. And if I have to wait for the ships which are coming from Hamilton to get to Myrtle Beach, it's going to take a very long time. I don't want to wait that long. So I'm just going to add the ship going the opposite direction. We can see how long it'll take. If I select a ship and then I select edit route for that ship, it gives me the time. And the journey time is 75 hours. So there are really two different time scales for this game, right? Distances are measured in miles, vehicles are measured, their speed is miles per hour, so journey times are represented as hours, but the clock for the game is in months. So today is February 1st, 2012. And so there's the question of what is the relationship between the hours that a vehicle is taking and the months that are passing by as time advances in the game. And the relationship is easy. 1 month is 24 hours. Turns out 1 month is 24 hours regardless of the number of days in the month. So this was 2012, so February had 29 days in 2012. A month is still 24 hours. In March there will be 31 days, still 24 hours, and so on. So for a trip that takes 72 hours to do the round trip, it means it's 3 months to do the round trip. I don't want to wait that long. So now that I've done that, which is all really sort of focused on getting the Culpeper hub up and running, there's more work to do there, of course, but I want to move on to this month's tasks. As I'm doing these tasks, I'm going to go ahead and start the clock. I've been playing the game paused the entire time up to this point because I wanted to make sure I got through everything. So the first task that I had is I was giving 6 vehicles with the potential to upgrade. The upgrade recommendation was to the Foraker, but my hub managers bought out all the Forkers at the beginning of the month, so I've upgraded the ones that I can to the Sanford. However, at this point I've sold out of Sanfords, so for these last 2 routes, I have to just add vehicles to this route. I can't actually upgrade the current vehicle. It just doesn't exist, but I'll add a new one. And that is all of the routes that had a potential to upgrade. But since I'm here, I want to take a look at Monterey. So Monterey, I have the majority of the trust in. This is my hub. But there's another company which has a fairly large trust at this point. I want to make sure that they can't get a majority of the trust and try to take over the route. So the only thing I can do is expand the routes out of Monterey to make sure that I'm actually satisfying all the demand, because if I'm satisfying all the demand, I will have all the trust. So the first thing I'll do is add another vehicle to Torreon. I have this route to Ciudad Acuña. Again, not big enough. I will upgrade it to a Wyndham and actually add a second Wyndham, because I know there are that many passengers who want to get between the 2 cities. We can see that's the top 2 cities with lots of travelers. The third on the list is Matawala. At this point, the only way to get from Monterey to Matawala is on the long routes to Leon. So I'm going to add just a direct bus from Monterey to Matawala. As usual, I'm going through all of the larger buses, so I'm going to have to start using smaller buses for some of these routes, even if I might want the larger ones. Meanwhile, I'm earning trust in some cities, I'm losing trust in others. The usual deal. If I'm earning trust, that means I'm doing a better job of bringing passengers to and from that city. If I'm losing trust, that means the other company is doing a better job of bringing passengers to and from that city. So it's just something to keep an eye on. But coming back to Monterey, all right, running down the list, the next city that I have trouble with is Leon. There are 2 routes to Leon. One goes directly from San Luis Potosi City to Leon. The other comes around through Querétaro City and Irapuato. Since I have passengers who want to go to both of those cities as well, I'm going to expand that route. And one more to look at. This route from Ciudad Victoria to Monterrey. I actually reduced this route recently. I decided the vehicle I had was bigger than I needed. But you can see now that passengers are sort of accumulating in Ciudad Victoria. And so I'm going to go ahead and upgrade the vehicle again. We'll just do it one step. It was the Elbert, so I made it a Powell. Okay, so I think Monterey should be better now, so I can go back to what are my other tasks for the month. Next on the list is Atlanta. I have an indirect traffic problem. The problem is that I have a huge number of passengers who want to get from Atlanta to Macon. Now, I could just add buses to that route, but I'd rather look at what the issue is. Why do I have so many passengers who want to connect to Macon through Atlanta? And if I look at all of the connections that I have to Macon, it turns out that many of them don't have direct connections. The only way to get to Macon is through Atlanta. And so my fix is going to be to just add a bunch of routes that give me direct connections between Macon and all of these other cities. There isn't really a lot to say about it, so I will go ahead and accelerate the video playback one more time. Running down the list, I've already done Augusta, and here's Athens, and Columbus, the new road, and Cookeville. And since it's on the way, we'll stop in Atlanta as well. And Florence. Because of where Florence is, I'm going to add several other stops. I'm going to go all the way out to Memphis and add a few other stops along the way. Before I add this route, I want to make sure I expand the hub in Macon so that this new route will operate out of Macon rather than one of the other hubs. All right. And now that I've fixed the problem for the future, there's the problem for the present. There's still too many passengers currently in Atlanta. And so what I want to do is expand some of the routes that pass between Macon and Atlanta. So I'll start with the train, which is coming from Miami. I know that there are many, many passengers who want to get from Atlanta to Miami and some of the destinations beyond Miami. So I'm going to add first one train, an Ironclad 2000. And then go ahead and duplicate it. I'm just going to add a second train from Miami through Macon to Atlanta and back, because I know I have that many passengers who want to be able to get to Miami. As we see here, I have 300 passengers who currently want to get to Freeport from Macon, and another 200 who want to go to Tampa. So those trains are definitely necessary. After that, it looks like Macon will be pretty good. So I have a couple of notifications about losing trust in Chicago and then earning trust in Richmond. We'll just clear those. There are lots of passengers still in Richmond, which I do need to work on, but maybe not immediately. So I think the changes I made will take care of the Atlanta indirect traffic problem. It will take a little while for things to work themselves out, but I can move on to another task, which is the Memphis passenger quota. So this is kind of the same thing, only more general. There are lots and lots of passengers in Memphis who are transferring to go to other locations, and I need to move some of them out. So the first one I'm looking at is this route to Florence. And Florence also has lots of passengers who want to go to several places, including Birmingham and Atlanta. And Birmingham also has many passengers who want to go to Atlanta and Florence. So my solution is more trains. I'll create a train starting in Atlanta and going to Birmingham, Florence, and Memphis. And based on the number of passengers that I saw, I will try Do I think the Ironclad 2000 will be big enough? Do I think I need to go bigger? We'll get the Ironclad 2000 and build out the rail that we need. And before I do anything else, I want to upgrade the hub in Atlanta because I want to make sure that this route is based out of Atlanta and not Memphis. And there we go. So the next route that I was looking at was there are lots of passengers who want to get from Memphis to Mexico City. And right now, the only way to get to Mexico City is by taking a bus. So what I'm going to do is create another train route. This time from Houston to Mexico City. And build out the rails. And we will stop at all of the cities in between Houston and Mexico City. Of course, putting Mexico City at the end. And now that that route exists, there are rails that connect basically every hub that I want to get to nearly every other hub that I want to go to. So coming back to the Memphis problem, Memphis has at this moment 700 passengers who want to get to Mexico City. So the way for them to do that is to take a train. So I'm actually going to have this train start in Culpeper. And this train is just going to stop in hubs. It's going to be something of an express. And take a relatively northern route until we get down to Mexico. And our endpoint will be Mexico City. And we know there are lots of passengers who want to go on that route, so I will take a big train. I'll take the biggest one I have, the Pioneer 10. Alright, so that handles that group of cities. I'll also create another route, which starts in Culpeper. Very convenient that I control that hub now. And it is going to go through hubs on a more southern route. So we'll go through Atlanta, and then Jackson, and then Houston. And finally, Monterrey, San Luis Potosi City, and Mexico City in Mexico. And there are fewer passengers who want to go up this route right now. There are still many, so I'll take the Ironclad 3500. Alright, so with those additional rail routes, that should help the Memphis passenger quota. Taking a moment to think if I should be doing anything else. I'm gonna pause the game, let's restart it. I've been spending all the money that I started with, so I need to restart the game so I can start earning some money again. Still haven't gotten as far as resolving all these passengers who want to go from Atlanta to Macon. Again, I'm pretty sure I just have to wait as soon as the trains that I have coming actually arrive. They'll take care of that. So then the next task is this All Cities Should Prosper task, again, in Cuba. We've actually had this a couple months in a row for Cuba. See if we can get it right this time. Again, we just want to look at all of the cities in Cuba, make sure I have good connections to all of them. Pinar del Rio has expanded. So we can now go to Cancun as well. It's a new destination. Before I do that, I also want to add another bus on the direct Havana to Pinar del Rio route because there are so many passengers who want to be using that route. But since I do have this new connection for Cancun, let's go ahead and add a route to Cancun. Of course, the only way to get there is, first of all, we have to start in a hub, so we'll start in Havana, and we have to fly. So there we go. I try to diversify the kinds of planes that I'm using, all the vehicles really, to make sure that I unlock all of the vehicles in each brand. And what else is Pinar del Rio doing? So we have lots of passengers who all want to go to Havana. So the question is, what more do I need for Havana? I have the route to Miami that goes through Key West right now, but given the number of passengers who want to get from Havana to Miami, I'm going to add a direct ship that only stops in Havana and Miami. And I've unlocked at some point the Silver Ripple, my first level 2 ship, but I don't think I need that. I'll just get to go explore. And that ship immediately filled. I'll take it as a sign that I should just get another one. Alright, where else do I want to go? I have 16 passengers who want to get to St. Clair. I have this direct route between St. Clair and Havana. Again, let me just go ahead and add another vehicle to it. Again, immediately filled with passengers, so that's a good sign. Next on the list for Havana is Freeport. At the moment, 24 passengers who want to get to Freeport. You can see that right now, many passengers are getting from Havana to Freeport by coming to St. Clair and then flying to Nassau. So I want to encourage passengers to go more directly. I will create a new route directly from Havana to Freeport and maybe use a plane on this one. No, I think I want to commit to ships everywhere. So I will add a water taxi to the route. And there you go. The idea of having cruise ships just passing between every port in the Caribbean is really appealing to me. So I'm going to keep expanding out using ships when I can from port cities. Of course, it doesn't always make sense. I now have a bunch of passengers who want to get to New Girona. The ship to get there would have to go all the way around the end of the island, and so I have one plane there right now. And I will just add another plane to this route. And just trying to guess at the size of the planes that I need. Okay, and where else do I have? I have a bunch of passengers who want to get from Havana to Santiago de Cuba, but they all came from St. Clair. So really that's about making sure that enough passengers can get from St. Clair to Santiago de Cuba directly. I won't really worry about it. looking at the existing routes from St. Clair and places that passengers from St. Clair need to go. I want to add a direct bus line between St. Clair and Camagüey. It was possible to get back and forth between St. Clair and Camagüey before, but not quite as directly. And I also have lots of passengers who want to go to New Girona. I have a plane with passengers there right now. Let me add another one. All right, coming down, we have Camagüey. It's looking pretty good. It has a bunch of passengers who want to go to St. Clair and Havana, but I've increased that route at this point. So it's come back to St. Clair. The other route that is not being served right now is St. Clair to Nassau, even though I have the plane on that route. It turns out that plane is actually mostly taking passengers from Havana to Freeport at this point. So let me go ahead and add a second plane. It is taking passengers from Havana to Freeport still, but hopefully having the second plane means it'll be able to clear out all the passengers who are there. All right, so now we have Santiago de Cuba. This one's a little bit frustrating. It used to be true that I had passengers in Santiago de Cuba who wanted to go to Jeremiah, but Jeremiah is no longer on my list of destinations for Santiago de Cuba. Instead, I have Bani in the Dominican Republic. So I will edit that plane to go to Bani instead. I'm a little frustrated about this because I should have been able to meet the demand for passengers from Santiago de Cuba to Jeremiah. The rule is if you are below 30% fulfillment on the last city on the list, like in this case, Santiago de Cuba for Camagüey, that last city can change. But the plane that I had going to Jeremiah should have been able to take all the passengers there, so I don't know how I failed to do that. I don't know why I've ended up with that route changing. All right, so I've made a bunch of changes around Cuba. We can hope that will help with the cities prospering. And as long as we're looking at things nearby, I'm going to add a direct route, a ship from Havana, stopping in Key West and going to Cape Coral. I have lots of passengers who want to get to Cape Coral from Key West, or I have some passengers who want to get to Cape Coral from Key West at least, and also passengers who want to get to Cape Coral from Havana. So if I give them a direct route, it will be easier for them to get to Cape Coral. Meanwhile, I have lots of passengers who want to get from Key West to Miami, and right now the only way to get from Key West to Miami is on the route which is looping through Havana, so I'm going to add a direct route between Miami and Key West. Keep unlocking more level 2 ships. I should actually start using some of them. So we'll give you a slightly larger ship. There's certainly enough passengers there right now to justify it. And in Miami, I have lots of passengers from Miami to Nassau, as well as lots of passengers who are transferring Miami to Freeport. I have right now this pair of ships which is doing this triangle between Miami, Freeport, and Nassau. Again, feeling like that's not really efficient enough. I want to add a new ship which is just going directly from Miami to Nassau, and then a second new ship which will go from Miami to Freeport. Turns out people want to go to Freeport from all over the country. That's why I have so many people who are going to be coming down on the bus. So I will start with a larger ship on that route. And of course, there are no passengers who are directly going from Miami to Freeport, but all the passengers who want to get to Freeport are coming to Miami to get there. So it makes sense to add this route. And so NASA's doing okay at this point. I expanded the connection between NASA and Miami, so that should help for Tampa, West Palm Beach, and Miami for that matter. But I should really add a hub to NASA so I can have passengers go directly from NASA to West Palm Beach. I'm not sure Tampa makes sense because to get to Tampa you have to go around the bottom of Florida. That route is long enough that I think I prefer to have passengers going to either Miami or West Palm Beach and then taking a bus from there to get to Tampa. I also have passengers who want to get from Freeport to NASA. So let me add a direct route between those two cities. All right. So I had the task to expand Cuba. I figure as long as I'm in the area, I might as well expand all of the cities in the Caribbean and look at Florida as well. Okay, several of these cities along the coast have many, many passengers who want to get to Miami. Tampa's doing better than it was. It's picked up passengers who are headed north. But I want to use this route, which is going to all those cities on the east coast of Florida from Tampa, and I'll just expand it so it'll be easier for passengers to get to all of these cities. And since the only vehicle I can buy right now is an Endicott, I know that's not going to be big enough, so I'm going to buy two of them. So having those additional buses should help with all of these cities. It may take a little while for all the passengers to be picked up. Coming up further on the coast, we get to Jacksonville. And Jacksonville has 33 passengers who want to get to Macon. There is the bus route from Miami to Macon, which goes through Jacksonville. So let me go ahead and add another bus to that route. This one I have to use the Antero. I'm guessing just one will be enough. And meanwhile, as expected, I've solved my Atlanta indirect traffic problem and I have solved my Memphis passenger quota. So I still have these notifications about earning trust and losing trust in various cities. I will just go ahead and clear all of these. I don't really need to do anything with them. But I can click on them to make them all go away so I don't have to look at them. Okay, Virginia Beach, I have the majority of the trust, but only barely. Meanwhile, lost trust in Davenport. Not a big surprise, I don't think. And so, maybe take another look at Cuba. 64% on all cities should prosper. Do I need to do more with that? Or do I need to do more with Miami? I think what I wanted to come back to was Jacksonville. I have passengers who want to get from Jacksonville to Savannah, and right now they can't get there. The routes that exist are too indirect. It will take too long to get there. So what I'm going to do is build out a road that goes directly from Miami to Myrtle Beach. Might as well stop everywhere along the way. Make sure that Myrtle Beach goes at the end, and add the direct road from Jacksonville to Savannah, and go ahead and create that route. So when this bus arrives in Jacksonville, it should be able to pick up the passengers who want to go to Savannah. Just checking back in. Cuba's now at 86%. So Camagüey is done. Santiago de Cuba is close. I just need more passengers to Bani. I have the plane going. Hopefully there will be enough passengers that I can actually pick up, that I can get to that 100% fulfillment. Meanwhile, Miami has now become overcrowded with passengers to Freeport. As promised, the trains are doing the job. They're bringing passengers who want to go to Freeport down to Miami. I already have the one large ship connecting the two. Let me go ahead and add a second one. Right. It's important at this point to make sure that I don't have so many passengers waiting in Miami to get to Freeport that additional passengers who also want to get to Freeport won't be willing to travel to Miami, which happens if the city fills. So, looking around at my hubs to see if there's anything else that is a particular issue that I need to be working on. So it's easy to identify hubs which are overflowing. It's harder to identify cities which aren't hubs, but they sometimes will have a little red exclamation mark to the left of the city name if they are overflowing with passengers. And so I've been trying to pay attention to which cities look like they might be problems, so I can come back to them and see if I should be doing something about them. So here's one. Columbus has many passengers who want to connect. So maybe I should be doing something about this. Also realizing it is the end of the month. So I'm going to pause the game while I think through what I want to be doing. What can I be doing? All right, so I have a bunch of passengers who want to go to Bowling Green, but they're really passengers which are coming from Atlanta. So that says to me that maybe it's too hard to get from Atlanta to Bowling Green. So it's really passengers trying to get from Bowling Green to Atlanta and then return from Atlanta to Bowling Green. But that route looks pretty good, I think. Just looking around, trying to figure out what other routes do I need. Of course, I've added a bunch of trains recently. And so they'll be able to carry many more passengers away from Atlanta to all of these other cities. Just scrolling through the list of routes from Atlanta. Alright, so this train goes through Bowling Green. And if we look at the 3 different trains that are on this route, they are all doing okay for the number of passengers they're carrying. They could be carrying more. So I'm not sure there's anything more that I need to do for that about these passengers in Columbus who want to get to Bowling Green right now. Try another one, try Little Rock. Again, they're mostly connecting from Atlanta. So the question is, do I have a good connection from Atlanta to Little Rock? My thinking is passengers can't get directly from Atlanta to Little Rock, and so they're going to Columbus instead, and so I just need to make it easier for them to go directly from Atlanta to Little Rock. Okay, so I have this route, and there are many, many buses on this route. And I also now have the train, which is going from Atlanta to Memphis. It looks like these buses aren't even full. I'm not sure. Trying to figure out if there's a good route that I can add that makes sense to add. I don't have a train connection from Atlanta to Gadsden, so maybe that's what I should be doing. Turns out the train from Atlanta to Gadsden is just going to go through Birmingham. That seems kind of silly. And if we were to continue on this route, we would actually come back through we should actually come back through Birmingham on our way to Florence. So it doesn't make any sense. So if I want to have a train going through Little Rock, it has to go the existing route. It has to go through Birmingham. And as I've been talking about, I don't really want the train to end in Little Rock. So I'm going to have it continue on to Dallas, but I can actually have a train going from Memphis to Little Rock, so I needed to add that rail as well. All right, what else should I be doing? So the next on the list was Florence. And again, these are mostly connecting from Atlanta. And then Meridian connecting from Atlanta. So Meridian should be in here somewhere. Where are you? Definitely Meridian. You're not a destination from Atlanta, so it must be that passengers want to get from Meridian to Atlanta. There it is. And we have 2 buses and this train taking passengers from Meridian to Atlanta. This train is currently at capacity. So might as well add another train. Might as well go big, make it a Pioneer 10. So what's next on this list? Decatur. Again, it's passengers who are coming from Atlanta and don't have a good route to Decatur. Just trying to think through what I might want to be doing here. And can I find where are these passengers from Atlanta to Decatur? Okay, I don't see Decatur on this list, so there are passengers who wanted to get from Atlanta to Decatur. Apparently they all went to Columbus, but passengers at this point aren't having a difficulty getting to Decatur directly from Atlanta. So coming down this list of cities and passengers, trying to figure out what changes I can make that will mean that passengers don't have to come to Columbus. And looking on the other side, we have Columbia, which also has a problem. There's lots of passengers who want to get to Pikeville. And these are mostly coming from Greenville, which is in this cluster of cities. So it's a kind of indirect route, right? They're starting in Greenville, they're actually circling around to get to Columbia and then going directly from Columbia up to Pikeville. I don't know that makes a lot of sense. So the question is, can I find a better way? Yeah, many of these routes, passengers have direct routes, and so they can just go. So I'm not quite sure why the passengers are backing up the way they are. I guess one thought is this route between Myrtle Beach and Chicago may not be big enough. On the other hand, I'm kind of out of buses. I can't really expand it. So the problem with Sumter is there's no good way to get a train from Myrtle Beach to Sumter. So if I want a train to bring all of these passengers, it has to start from somewhere else. I wanted to start it from a hub. So my thinking is I create another hub on the coast in North Charleston and potentially have a train from North Charleston. We want to make sure we're going through Pikeville, and then we're ending up in Chicago. We want to make sure we hit all of these cities. All right, so this train is going to be taking a slightly different route than I was thinking of. So we'll go through Augusta instead of going through Charlotte. That should be fine. And if I drop Pikeville from the list, I'm just trying to figure out what this is doing to this route. This mostly makes sense, I think. Let's go ahead and build the rails. And then, all right, the price of building this thing is including adding the hub in North Charleston, which is what we want. And then we'll just stop everywhere. And it's on the way. Again, move Chicago and put it back so it's in the right place. So my idea is I want trains to be going from hub to hub, and I couldn't get a train that ends in Sumter without putting another hub somewhere. And so I decided the hub on the coast would be better than making Sumter a hub by itself. And now that I have that hub there, I can work on expanding it in the future. Just looking around at these other cities, Charlotte's also a bit of a problem. It's all about trying to figure out which additional routes do I not have that I need. Okay. And Columbus in Ohio is also a problem. Has too many passengers who want to get to Mansfield. I just keep looking at things and not really seeing what I should be doing to improve them. Like, I have a direct path from Mansfield to Atlanta. Alright, you know what? I can just make a shorter route. I'm going to start in Cincinnati. I know this is going to go through Dayton anyway, so I might as well stop there. And add in Antero. And again, I've run out of large buses. So trying to add bus routes to fix things, I have to use small buses. And so it seems just inefficient. But we'll create the bus route, we'll let it go, see what happens. And in the other direction, we have from Richmond so it has lots of passengers in Richmond right now. Again, do I see obvious changes that I can make to improve these routes? So part of the reason why I have lots of passengers in Richmond is because it's on this triangle, this rail triangle, which is going between Cincinnati, Detroit, and Chicago. So let me just add some bigger trains to this route. So that was a train in one direction, and we'll also add a train in the other direction. Okay, so this one already had two trains going in this direction. So, oh, I can't upgrade to a T3, I'm out of T3s. I'll just upgrade this one to a Pioneer 8. And so, since there are now more trains coming through Richmond, I hope that will help there. I'm just looking around, trying to find, are there other cities that I think are a problem right now? I don't see any more exclamation marks. I think things are pretty good. Alright, I don't see anything else to change right now, so let me go ahead and just start time again. We're nearly at the end of the month anyway. So in another moment or two, we'll cross over into March. Take another moment to look around the map. Still at only 86% for Cuba, but out of time. We're in March. Fireworks in the cities that have expanded. Not a whole lot that we can see right here, but expanding Tampa is good news. But this seems like the right place for me to stop. Just 1 month this time, but did a whole bunch of different things this month. So I'll stop here. This is where I say like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I see you again in the future. Thanks for watching.